Alright, crazy spicy decks of the week, where we look at all the decks this week that had some kind of success, whether it was reaching King of Games, tournament success, having a good win streak at the Legend or King of Games level. So we have a few different ones to go over, also a KC Cup deck this week as well to go over. So we're going to jump straight in. We have a Trickstar burn deck here. Got a few different engines we're actually mixing up here. We have the Stratos engine as well as Spiritual Beast Tamer Winda. Winda and Stratos can kind of help you stall it a little bit. Winda, of course, giving you access to the various fusion monsters that Ritual Beasts have at their disposal. Stratos giving you rank or level 4s on the board to XYZ, as well as additional copies of itself to your hands. But we also have 3 copies of Trickstar Lilybell. Now, Lilybell has a few tricks up her sleeve, no pun intended, but she can attack directly, and she only has 800 attack points, but being able to deal little 800 points of damage here actually matters with this deck, because we're running Chain Reaction as our skill, so every trap card is going to deal 200 points of damage when you activate it. But she also has 2,000 defense points, which goes well with Consecrating Current, so you can jump her attack up to 2,800 with this thing, and swing directly for 2,800 with that, which is a lot of damage, obviously. But then, also, if you deal damage with her with battle, you can add a Trickstar monster from your graveyard to your hand. She's the only one you have in the deck, so you can add copies of her back from your graveyard to hand if you've lost them. And then you can special summon those right to the board and attack directly with them too. So you can swing, attack, or add from your graveyard to hand, special summon that, attack again. Just a whole bunch of ways to ping your opponent for damage. Also, Inverse Universe swaps the attack and defense of all phases of monsters on the board, which means your Lilybell can go up to 2k, swing over your opponent's monster, swing for 2,000 directly, which is more likely because you just want to deal so much damage as possible with this deck as quickly as possible, and then just finish them off with a Chain Reaction, just burn them to death. Basically put your opponent in a really bad spot. So yeah, this deck is really cool. I really love the combination of a whole bunch of different little archetypes here and this little burn idea we have going. So I really like this deck. I'm gonna have to try it out here in the next week, maybe do a video on it, because I think it's really cool. And I definitely want to try it out. Next up, we got a Valkyrie deck. This one hit King of Games. This is actually a 30 card variant, and we have a lot of traps in this one. But what really separates this deck is the spell card. The monster lineup is pretty standard for a Valkyrie deck, as well as the skill being the middle-aged mechs to get the Sig run on the board pretty easily and quickly. But we have Sanctum of the Parsath here. Now, this card's name becomes Sanctuary in the Sky, which means all those other cards in the game that say you have to have Sanctuary in the Sky on the board to activate it, this card will allow those effects to trigger. This card also gives all your fairies 300 attack and defense, and also it says your set spells and traps cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. So it's got a nice little bonus of protecting all of your back row from your opponent's effects, but it also allows your Divine Punishment to be active. Divine Punishment's kind of like a Solemn Judgment in some ways, negate a spell, trap, or a monster effect, so you can negate just about anything with this trap card. But there's also another trap card in here that I really haven't looked at much, and I think has been kind of overlooked by a lot of people. Apple of Enlightenment. So this card is kind of like a DD Crow. Banish cards from your opponent's graveyard up to the number of Valkyrie monsters you have on the board. Not just monsters, but cards, kind of like DD Crow. You can banish their spells and traps as well. But you can also hit multiple things because you have multiple Valkyries on the board a lot of the time. So you can banish multiple cards with this effect. But also, if this card leaves the field while it was set because of an opponent's effect, MST, Cosmic Cyclone, whatever, and it's banished or destroyed in your graveyard or in your banish pile, you get to draw cards equal to the number of Valkyrie on the board plus 1. So if you have 3 Valkyries on the board and your opponent MSTs this card, you get to draw 4 cards. And a lot of times you're going to have multiple Valkyries on the board with this deck, so you're going to be able to draw multiple cards with this quite often if your opponent happens to hit this with an MST or Cyclone. That is absolutely nuts. That is an insane amount of card advantage to take over your opponent. And with all the trap cards that we're running into this deck, you're going to be drawing into Floodgates and Drownings and Canadias and Team Buddy Forces and more Valkyrie monsters to throw on the board. It's absolutely insane. If you can bait your opponent in making you draw 3 or 4 cards with this off of an MST or Cyclone, like, it's going to help you win a lot of games. So I think that's a really cool idea. I haven't seen people using this card too much, or the Divine Punishment, or the Sanctuary. So a lot of new interesting ideas with this deck that I'm really glad to see, because I love Valkyries. You guys know I love to talk about this deck, and anytime we got something like this, I got to talk about it. So next up, we got a Gishki deck. I did not realize just how much sort of searching and consistency this deck has. So I know about the ritual spell card. Anytime you have this in your graveyard, you can actually shuffle it back into your deck and take a ritual monster, Gishki, from your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So you have all this like recurability with your monsters. One of your monsters just lets you destroy things on your opponent's board. The other one lets you banish 5 cards in either graveyard, so you can banish a bunch of useful things from your opponent's grave with this. But while their effects are decent, they're nice, it's just the recurability and the consistency this deck offers. Again, being able to ritual summon them out and then add the monster back to your hand, shuffle this back into your deck, and then super easily search it out. Your shadow and your vision can be discarded from your hand to add spells, to add a spell or a trap from your monster from your deck to your hand, a Gishki ritual spell or a Gishki monster. So you have consistency, being able to very easily add whatever you need just by discarding these, and you can add them from your deck to your hand by summoning Gishki Abyss. So you can summon Abyss, add whatever you need to hand, discard it, search for whatever you need. And we even have a Gishki Beast in here, which adds, it's kind of like a wolf bark. You can summon your beast, special summon the Abyss from the graveyard, add whatever you need from your deck to hand, then discard them to get whatever you need, a monster or a ritual spell, and then you can activate your Territory to Shark skills, go into a rank 4, and then go for your ritual summon, bring out whatever you need here. There's so many different cool things you can do with this deck, and of course we have all of the Territory to Shark monsters that you normally would have access to, Hope Woven, Abyss Dweller, Bahamut Shark can play off of that. So all the nice things you have from that deck are here as well to go along with all the Gishki stuff. So this is a really cool idea. I haven't seen Gishki much in this game, and I'm really glad to see that someone had some success with them, going on a bit of a win streak with the deck. Next up, we have a Gouki deck. This is the one deck that's from the KC Cup, Serenity, with a 7 win streak with this thing. We actually have Silent Swordsman mixed into this Gouki deck, so no Necro Valley in here. Instead, we're going with the Silent Swordsman engine. Still have some back row. The Gouki lineup is pretty standard. But 3 Silent Swordsman, you can special summon them to the board, negate your opponent's spell effects, and any other spell cards. And also, we have a Silent Sword Slash here. 2 copies of it. This can make your Silent Swordsman unaffected by your opponent's card effects. So you can just negate all your opponent's spells, make your Silent Swordsman unaffected to their trap cards, to their monster effects, have your back row to protect them, and you can just completely lock out your opponent with this card. Plus, it gains 1,500 attack points, which needs to help it get up to 3,000 or more. And then, of course, if they do manage to get over your Silent Swordsman, you just bring out another bigger one out from your deck, and again, all the back row to protect it. This is actually a really, really cool concept and a really, devastating one. And we're not even using Necro Valley in this deck the way that, a lot of other Gouki decks do. So, yeah, really, props to Serenity. Really cool deck. Having success in the KC Cup with it. Next up, we got a Gravekeeper deck, a 30-card Gravekeeper with this one. I really like what we're doing with this deck, in that we have a lot of the old Gravekeepers that you don't see too much when people do play with this deck. We have Recruiter in here, we have the Nobleman, some of these old cards you saw back in the day, maybe when people were first playing the deck in the TCG, and just some really, really cool plays with it, though. Nobleman able to bring out your Spy from the deck and get out more summons. We also have, of course, Necro Valley in here, which just shuts down so many decks. Plenty of trap cards to back up your monsters as well. Triple Needle Sealing, of course, Gravekeeper Spy can be set. Your opponent puts 3 monsters on the board. You wipe them all out, keep your Spy up, flip summon it, summon something from your deck, and just punish your opponent. This card absolutely can devastate a lot of decks right now. Needle Sealing can be super effective against so many things. And even so, you don't even mind your Gravekeeper Recruiter dying with this card too, because again, you just get to search out something from your deck with it if it does. So plenty of other traps to go along with it. Floodgate, Drownings, plenty of battle traps. Rite of Spirits, a nice little call the Haunted for the deck. So yeah, Gravekeeper is still a threat, especially with Necro Valley, just being able to shut down so many decks. Alright, and this is our one tournament deck from the week that we're going over. This is a top 4. This is actually a first place. Sorry, this should not say top 4. This is actually a first place deck from the G1X tournament. This was a combo. This is a combo Thunder Dragon combo a Resonator, a hybrid deck of Thunder Dragons and Resonators. So we have the Skill Demon's Resonance, so you can shuffle back your Resonator cards, get whatever you need from your deck in terms of Fiends for your Synchro plays, whatever you need. It does limit us to only Synchro monsters, so there's no XYZ plays for the Thunder Dragon engine, unfortunately. But you do have that consistency with the Resonators. 3 Resonator call, 8 total targets in there to be able to get what you need to your hand. We have 1 Wild Wind in this deck, so we're not going to be going for constantly Synchro play after Synchro play with it. But we do have Luna the Dark Spirit in here. Luna can special summon herself to the board, allow you to go for Synchro plays as well, but also at the same time banishing your Thunder Dragons from the graveyard, giving you additional effects off of them. We have 3 Dark in here, 3 Roar, and 1 Hawk to be able to bring stuff back to the board. Again, can't go for rank 6 plays with it, but we can still flood the field with Thunder Dragon monsters that give you effects when they go to the graveyard or when they get banished. We also have a couple Monarchs in here, Caius and Zaborg, to act as an additional light monster, as well as a Dragon Duo, and 2 Levianeer. Of course, Levianeer so powerful. Also have a Gold Sark to trigger your Thunder Dragons, 2 Herald of the Abyss, and 1 of the trap cards. So a lot of different plays in here to go with the Thunder Dragon engine and the Resonators. It's just a really cool idea, and again, it had success. They actually managed to win a tournament. I think it was 128 players as well, so it's not like this was some small 20-player tournament. This was a full-fledged 128-player tournament, 7-card side deck, best of 3, and it managed to get first place. So yeah, absolutely props to Trap for managing to do it with this kind of mishmash of a deck. So, but anyways, that's all the decks from this week, so thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next week with this, as always, on Monday or Tuesday, as well as with some other various deck profiles coming up throughout the week. So thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great day.